The story begins with our main protagonist Han Tae-Sung, who claims that he cannot become stronger despite that he has a slight talent and luck. But money is non-existent. That is because he is just an ordinary human. Not just ordinary, but should be called a lesser person. But then, his master told him something that he could not forget. That is, being strong is not a necessity in winning against an enemy. And if he can't be stronger than the enemy, he just needs to weaken them more than himself. Han Tae-Sung was referring to the game he usually played. In this game, he was once surrounded by monsters, so he used his two skills to face them, which are Fate's End, which would decrease the magic defense and resistance of enemies, and the Iron Weakness that gradually decreases the health and mana of enemies. The moment he used the skills, the monsters nearby absorbed their power and instantly gained a debuff. Another monster came and swung his weapon, trying to attack Tae-Sung, but Tae-Sung dodged it and also applied a debuff to this enemy. The monster ends up hitting the ground, causing a huge commotion. Fortunately, Tae-Sung was unharmed and shockingly blocked the monster's weapon barehandedly. He then cast Scorn of the strong skill that would increase damage dealt to opponents with higher levels and decrease damage received. He then bravely charged at the enemy and lifted up his weapon. When he's almost near, he stops charging and throws his weapon at the monster, aiming its chest. The monster moaned in agony while Tae-Sung ran toward him and stood at his own weapon that had struck the monster. The monster grits his teeth out of pain while Tae-Sung dares to smile at it, then attacks it with a lightning strike, causing it to fall to the ground. At the same time, Tae-Sung recalled the reminder that his master told him. That is, he should weaken the enemy first, then defeat them in one blow, since two blows are not good enough. He must kill the enemy with one blow without failing. That is precisely what the Debuff Master means. This game he was playing is called Brave New World, known as BNW for short. This game, being a virtual reality open world MMORPG, boasts the largest scale in gaming history, a perfectly guaranteed level of freedom, with a massive and diverse world map spanning for about 30 million square kilometers, with over 2 billion NPCs and continents close to infinity. Before our main protagonist becomes strong and meets a pro master, he's just an ordinary player who trusts the game so much that he even believes would help him live comfortably and hassle-free for a while. He once discovered a dungeon and got lots of gold that was probably worth a few hundred in cash. His guild member inside the game is the witness and also the one who kept on asking him how he discovered such a sweet dungeon, and Tae-Sung only replied that there is a way to know everything. Seeing as how talented he is in the game despite his education and family background, he guessed there was no law in the world that was telling him to die. Since he was too confident of earning much in the game, he usually treated his guild members every time he found lots of treasures. He was really confident that this game was the only way he could survive financially. One day, he was hunting in the forest, but he was suddenly chased by two men from the other guild to intentionally kill him. He ran as fast as he could and both men were struggling to catch him until he disappeared from their sight and could not properly see him because of the raindrops. They slowly walked into the forest, wondering where Tae-Sung hid without knowing that Tae-Sung was just behind the tree they passed by. Luckily, both men decided to search in the other direction. Tae-Sung grits his teeth while trying to stop making any bit of noise. He was also sure that those men were from the Genesis Guild, a supergiant guild with significant influence within BNW. And those two guys who chased him were the ones who destroyed the Beamer guild that he operated. No matter how giant that guild is, he didn't expect the power gap to be this big, to fail without even putting up a proper struggle. His system window appeared while he was thinking. It was giving him a warning that he had been playing Brave New World for 47 hours. Excessive gaming can interfere with normal daily life. Tae-Sung was annoyed since he had nowhere to go, because even if he logged out, the only thing waiting for him in his apartment was the musty basement room and his worn-out VR capsule. To stand against Genesis, he took on hundreds of millions of debt and acquired high-priced items, but was unfortunately stolen by the enemy caused by the betrayal of trusted comrades. The only remaining items he had were 3 times dry beef jerky, a torn cloak, 2 times treasure map torn in half, and a faded wand. He sat down and remained hidden in a tree while the rain continuously fell. He also wondered if those men would now stop chasing him. He was mad again for not being able to face those men and defeat them. His hands were trembling and he cried, questioning why he kept on losing even after all the efforts and sacrifices he had made. Shockingly, an old man in black clothes and had long white hair and a beard gave him an answer. He said that it was because Tae-Sung was weak. Tae-Sung was startled since he didn't notice someone appeared in front of him. The world is a ruthless place for survival of the fittest. It's only natural for the weak to be trampled upon, so why complain in injustice? The old man asked. He also added that it is pathetic to see a young guy acting like a beggar with a pale blue appearance and begging for sympathy. Tae-Sung felt insulted the moment this old man called him a beggar. He stood and walked away with his both hands in his pocket while telling the old man not to mind him and continue his way. He also said that he's not in the mood to engage in wordplay with anyone right now. While he was walking away, the old man stated that Tae-Sung was a guy who couldn't even listen when an adult was speaking. Tae-Sung suddenly flinched when he noticed someone charging at him from behind. He turned around while telling the old man that it was too dangerous for him now. A strong explosion happened in the forest after the enemy just attacked the ground to scare Tae-Sung. The other man came back to his companion with annoyance for leaving him behind instead of going together. The guy with a sword who scares Tae-Sung then laughs and teases his companion that he's a slowpoke man. The guy with bandana looked at Tae-Sung and said that Tae-Sung really didn't log out of the game. Tae-Sung was covering his face with his arm and he gained lots of scratches after the surprise attack. The old man is still standing behind him but he is unharmed. The guy with the sword knew that Tae-Sung doesn't want to log out because the reality was more like hell for him and he was in hundreds of millions of debt. Tae-Sung grits his teeth and he is really in pain. He knows that he's now doomed since he doesn't even have a weapon that he can use to battle. "Old man, this place is dangerous, so please leave quickly, please," he said since he really cared about the old man. And also, he didn't want any outsiders to be beaten up just because of him. "Who, me?" the old man asked, and Tae-Sung angrily answered, "Of course. This is not the time for joking." Both men from the Genesis Guild noticed the old man for the first time and they believed that the old man was an NPC. And it was funny for them seeing Tae-Sung worrying about a mere NPC. Another man came who also belonged to their guild. He said that Tae-Sung likes to cosplay as a nice guy. This guy was very familiar to Tae-Sung. He was shocked upon seeing this man. He knows that this man's name is Kim Jinwoo who belonged to his guild before, and he says that Jinwoo is such a traitor. Jinwoo then laughed and said that calling him a traitor was a bit harsh. "I simply transferred because I received a better offer," he added. Tae-Sung was mad and asked Jinwoo how he dared to betray him despite that he treated him as his family. "Ah, that family talk of yours, isn't it getting old? If you really thought of us as family, you wouldn't have confronted Genesis. You only recruited guild members to be your pawns because you didn't want to lose the guild, right?" Jinwoo replied, which flustered Tae-Sung and denied it all. He wanted to explain but Jinwoo suddenly grabbed a weapon while saying that Tae-Sung didn't know the saying to avoid companies that feel like family. He lifted up the wand and this wand creates a powerful flame. He added that it is only when business goes well that they become like family. Tae-Sung was so furious as he now knew who really stole his weapon. Still, Jinwoo didn't feel any guilt and he even teased Tae-Sung by saying that it would be junk if the weapon would still belong to Tae-Sung. He told Tae-Sung not to worry since he put the weapon to good use on behalf of Tae-Sung. He also said that this weapon is awesome. While spitting words, he casts an attack on Tae-Sung. A powerful flame headed toward Tae-Sung and Tae-Sung panicked knowing that the flame was very dangerous. A strong explosion happened and the guy with the sword laughed and said, "Even though they've been eating from the same bowl, how can you just send him off like that? You have to step on them firmly so they can't crawl back up again, right?" Jinwoo replied. He was suddenly agitated when he heard someone calling him a worthless scum. Unexpectedly, it was the old man. "No matter how much of a trash you are, you don't stab a knife in the back of a benefactor and then laugh," the old man stated. It turned out that he saved Tae-Sung by blocking Jinwoo's attack. He casts a magic power using his hand while proclaiming that Jinwoo is someone who is not even worth recycling. Tae-Sung behind him was shocked upon seeing the powerful aura from the old man and he could not believe that this unknown old man was able to block such a dominant attack. Jinwoo on the other hand was dumbfounded knowing that the old man blocked his attack which he never expected. The old man then questioned him if his attack really considered an attack. He clenched his fist and uttered, "This is how it's done, kid." He attacked the men from the Genesis Guild and his attack was so formidable causing the enemies of Tae-Sung to spin around and scream in agony. Tae-Sung at the same time covered his face with his hand since he also felt the strong blow of winds coming from the attack made by the old man. He took a glimpse and he was shocked upon witnessing the max damage dealt by the old man towards his enemies. He immediately activates his rune of insight to check the old man's identity, and he finds out that this unknown person is so-called the old man walking down the street. An NPC belonged to a human race. What makes him more surprised is that this old man is level 999. Tae-Sung was jaw-dropping after he discovered it. The old man stared at him and said that he had been watching him for a long time now. Tae-Sung felt that he was pierced in the chest the moment he heard the old man telling him that he was a man with no talent, no money, and not even luck. But even so, he likes how Tae-Sung struggled with all his might. Tae-Sung's system window suddenly appeared to notify that he had the sacred bond of connection quotes. It is an epic quest. He must bow respectfully to the old man on the street. The reward is still unknown, and he must be done very respectfully. Otherwise, he will be hit to death by the angry old man. Tae-Sung was interested in the quest, knowing that its content isn't that difficult, despite that the asked caution is a bit concerning. He doesn't know what this is, but he believes there won't be any chance like this again if he ignores this quest now. He also doesn't see any reason not to do it, so he follows what the system says and bows down to the old man while giving thanks to him for saving him against the men from the Genesis Guild. He sees the opportunity and asks the old man to accept him as his disciple. In an instant, the sacred bond of connection epic quest has been completed. The system congratulated him for becoming the disciple of Deus and was instantly promoted. His class has changed from elemental mage to disciples. Tae-Sung was so confused with his class now, but Deus told him that it literally means that he now has become his disciple. As you have become my disciple, I will open you to the path of invincibility, Deus said while extending his hand to assist Tae-Sung. Tae-Sung was puzzled. He felt a little nervous, but he reached Deus' hand and replied, "Yes, master." A purple magic power then appeared below them. They both suddenly float, and Tae-Sung is aware that this magic is teleportation magic. They both then disappeared and only a little dazzling light left. They teleported in the midway up Kunlun Mountain, and as they landed, Tae-Sung was panting heavily. He was surprised to see Deus use teleportation magic so easily when even rankers find it difficult to use. Now, he wondered if the old man was really an NPC or should be an administrator of the game. He was also wondering where they were, but he was startled when Deus told him to stop dawdling and follow him. He said that there's a place nearby where he will teach him some techniques. They arrived after a few minutes of walking, and seeing the surroundings made Tae-Sung impressed because of the lake in the area that is truly clear. As per Deus, this lake is the lake of purification, and with this, he will purify Tae-Sung. Tae-Sung was confused and asked Deus what he meant to say. Deus then answered that he didn't intend to teach him for long, but would only teach him intensively for 99 days, and this lake of purification would assist in his teaching. Still, Tae-Sung didn't get it. Deus then said that it's literally a purification. A new wine must be poured into a new bottle. He suddenly pushed Tae-Sung into the lake using his foot while saying that Tae-Sung is incredibly filthy right now, so he must wash up. Tae-Sung wasn't prepared for it, but he cannot do anything either. He splashed into the water and he panicked when he went down so deep, thinking that he was dying. But then, he realizes that he can still breathe in this water without struggling. The system appeared to notify him that the lake of purification was purifying him. There was also a warning. A severe pain will start soon, so he must be prepared for it. The pain would last about an hour. After a few seconds, the severe pain that the system mentioned had started. Tae-Sung was screaming in pain, so the water was bubbling above the lake. Instead of worrying, Deus was refreshed listening to the scream of Tae-Sung underwater. Tae-Sung feels like every cell in his body is burning. He was screaming inside his apartment, and he could not believe that the game allowed this level of pain. His hand was trembling while trying to log out of the game since he could not hold the pain any longer. When his finger almost reaches the log out button, his worst experience in the game suddenly plays on his mind. The worst part is he recalled how his mother was beaten up by their father because of a lack of finances, and at that time, he could not do anything but hide and cover his sister's eyes. To help his mother financially, he was forced to work on a construction site. Remembering all of his struggles made him decide to endure the pain. His remaining time is 59 minutes and 51 seconds. He told himself that he wouldn't run away anymore. The remaining time is 59 minutes and 50 seconds until it reaches 0 minutes and 1 second. He fortunately endured the pain for an hour, and he came up from the water and immediately reached the ground while saying that he finally made it. He lay down with a big smile on his face and the system window popped up. As per the system, his purification was completed and his character will be reset. Tae-Sung, from a level 201 player, now becomes a level 1, an adventurer, and a disciple. He immediately got up as he was shocked to see his current level, and he questioned about it. Deus was standing behind him and he was glad while saying that the purification of Tae-Sung was successful. Tae-Sung was confused and asked his master about what was happening. Deus lands a towel on Tae-Sung's hair and says that Tae-Sung was nothing but trash an hour ago. An hour ago? Are you referring to before meeting you, master? Tae-Sung asked, and Deus answered yes and explained that strength, stamina, mana, and everything else, not a single thing was proper. He knows that Tae-Sung was expected to become invincible without knowing that he had such an imbalance in growth. After explaining, Tae-Sung concludes that Deus reset his level because he was a useless character. Deus intends to rebuild Tae-Sung from head to toe and draw out his potential to the limit. Simply put, while others gain 1 mana, Tae-Sung will gain 1.2 mana. Tae-Sung was shocked as he deduced that he would gain 120 mana while others gained 100 mana at level 100. He bowed down to Deus to sincerely show his appreciation for his grace toward him, especially for choosing him to become his disciple. Deus turned around and told Tae-Sung that it was too early to be pleased since Tae-Sung still had a long way to go to become an unparalleled strongest. According to him, for the remaining 99 days, this process of purification will be repeated 100 times and even more rigorous training. I can do it. Whether it's 100 times or 1,000 times, I won't give up as long as I can get stronger, Tae-Sung confidently stated. Deus looked back at him. He smiled and said that he was hoping Tae-Sung's determination wouldn't change. He then continued to walk while Tae-Sung received another quest. It's his rebirth and he must endure Deus training. Currently, he endured the 1% of the training. At the same time in the United States, exactly in the headquarters of the B&W game company inside the special department, Hexagon. They were checking the game and someone declared that Epic Code 7 had been activated. Everyone was shocked upon hearing it. In this signal, they understood that Deus had taken on a disciple and they wondered who was it. They were expecting it would be someone a pro gamer they knew back then, but the programmer said no and stated that the chosen disciple seemed to be just an ordinary gamer. The team leader came and heard them. He ordered the programmer to zoom in on the screen so he could check. He's Oppenheimer, the Hive vice chairman and also head of the Hexagon team. He then went near to the screen and saw Tae-Sung's information. With the photo of Tae-Sung, Oppenheimer said that Tae-Sung seems to be an ordinary heavy user from Korea. He uttered Tae-Sung's name and he was looking forward to seeing how long Tae-Sung could endure the pain. The fact is that Tae-Sung wanted to escape from the gutter-like reality, so he came to B&W to run away from it. But this game was not much different from reality. He could say that it's the other way around. When he thinks about it, maybe it was he who was unfortunate, but then he met his master, and because of his master Deus, he found hope once again. He started training to become invincible, and 3 months have already passed. On the last day of his training, he was inside the house of Deus in Kunlun Mountain celebrating his winning. Deus was sipping a cup of alcohol and joking around that he lived to see his student giving him alcohol. After today, the promised 99 days will end. Don't you feel sad about leaving Kunlun Mountain? He asked. No way. How can I possibly feel sad to the end of this hellish training? Tae-Sung replied. Deus then stated that Tae-Sung is just making weak excuses after training for only 3 months, and that he even gave him a break in the middle. He also informed Tae-Sung that he trained without even sleeping back in his days. He didn't know that during those breaks he gave to Tae-Sung, Tae-Sung was working at the construction site to pay off his debts. Now that I think about it, I was curious about this before. Master, have you ever had a hard time similar to mine? He asked, which shocked Deus. He put down his glass of alcohol and said that there was a time when he also pursued strength. But he claimed that he wasn't trash like Tae-Sung. Tae-Sung felt awkward and wondered if his master felt sorry for belittling him so much. Deus decided to bring back his memory 500 years ago. According to him, there were 8 people who were the strongest in the continent. There, he was always in the last place. He desperately wanted to beat those guys who were stronger than him, so he stayed here in Kunlun Mountain to train. As a result of that, he was able to obtain the greatest power, but he still couldn't win. Tae-Sung then asked him if the opponents were really too strong which he could not win against. And he was confused when Deus answered that when he came down to defeat his opponents, it was already 500 had passed, so all of his opponents were old and worn out. Later then he realized that he trained for so long so he didn't feel the passage of time. When he came back, people thought he was a beggar, and there was also a lady who told her son that he would be the same as this old man if he neglected his studies. Despite that, Deus was grateful since the realization he gained while training had become of no use whatsoever. He suddenly gave a book to Tae-Sung telling him to take it with him. Tae-Sung asked him what this book was all about, but Deus responded with another question. He asked Tae-Sung if he knew what invincible meant. For Tae-Sung, it means being stronger than anyone else. But then, Deus said that he was wrong. For him, invincible means unbeatable power. He stood as he explained that invincible is a power to overcome any enemy. But isn't winning possible only when you are stronger than your enemy? Tae-Sung asked. But as per Deus, there is no need to become the strongest. All Tae-Sung should have to do is weaken the enemy that is stronger than him. He claimed that the statement he mentioned is a technique that is the beginning and end of the Debuff master. Tae-Sung was holding the book and it suddenly opened, emerging a purple light, and at the same time, the system window of Tae-Sung popped up to notify that he had completed his Rebirth quest and endured Deus training 100%. He also successfully chased classes. His class now changed from disciple to a Debuff master. His nickname is now changed from Tae-Sung to Siegfried. Tae-Sung was confused about the given nickname. Deus then said that Tae-Sung is his only disciple, so he wanted to use a name that would really suit his disciple. He wants Tae-Sung to use Siegfried as his name. Tae-Sung was puzzled knowing that players cannot change their nickname in BNW, yet they can change even the system's laws as they please. Since his nickname had changed, he feels like he was born again. With this power, he was confident that he could now beat those men from the Genesis Guild. "Oh, and since you have become my disciple, there is something that must be done," Deus said, and Tae-Sung then asked him what it was. And as per Deus, those people he mentioned earlier probably each had a successor prepared before dying. Now, he wants his disciple Tae-Sung to defeat those descendants with the techniques he created. The system window shows up again to give Tae-Sung an epic quest which he must defeat the 7 descendants of the 8 strong men who dominated the continent 500 years ago, excluding his master Deus. The descendants are descendants of Vajra, the thunder god, descendants of the sword saint, Murcielago, descendants of the great sage, Ziggurat, the descendant of the blood demon, Berserk, descendant of people, Mogris, descendants of the grand palace, Wind Force, and lastly, the descendant of King, Brow. Sure, no matter what it is, this disciple will definitely defeat them. I will prove my strength, master. Tae-Sung confidently answered. Your eyes look so much better, Deus uttered. He then activated the teleportation and declared that his class had now ended. Tae-Sung was standing in the teleportation and he smiled at his master Deus. Deus told him to descend and become the strongest after him. Tae-Sung then bids goodbye to him. And this time, his smile is more meaningful than before. A straight purple light then shows up as a sign that Tae-Sung is now heading back to the main game. When he disappeared, Deus suddenly felt a little guilt knowing that he sent back Tae-Sung with so much pressure. Tae-Sung on the other hand teleported at the western end of the continent in the Beerman territory. He was walking in the forest and he was clueless as to why Deus sent him so far. But then, he concludes that this would work out well knowing that he's only level 1 right now, so it's obvious that if he runs into the Genesis guys in his current state, he'll get kicked out. His urgent priority now is to grow without anyone's interference until at least he leveled up to 100. He sat into a log and checked his job description. As a debuff master, his role is a melee damage dealer, supporter, and wide area nuker. He's a physical attack type debuffer who fights by weakening enemies using various debuffs. His main weapon and armor are both heavy ones. He had level 1s rank blunt mastery, shield mastery, greatsword mastery, spear mastery, gauntlet mastery, and heavy armor mastery. His skills are level 1 weakening curse, level 2 desperate defense, level 1 smash, locked speed regulation, locked contempt of the strong, and locked weakening curse. He knows that smash is an active skill and he wondered if the weakening curse and desperate defense are areas of effect debuffs. The desperate defense creates a circular field centered around the caster that reduces enemies' defense and magic resistance. As the skill level rises, the range of the field widens. The weakening curse on the other hand creates a circular field centered around the caster that gradually reduces enemies' health and mana. As the skill level rises, the field range also expands, and the amount of damage increases. Since it is a fixed damage method that increases in proportion to the caster's mana, it is not affected by defense and magic resistance. Tae-Sung was surprised after reading the skill's information. He cannot believe that it reduces not only defense but also magic resistance. Also for him, giving fixed damage proportional to mana is just a scam. He wanted to try it quickly to make sure, and he was so determined to see monsters nearby or at least a passing NPC. All of a sudden, a cute little monster screamed in fear inside a cage. As Tae-Sung turned his head on the other side, he saw a tiger rushing at a fast speed. It turned out that this tiger was charging at the hamster. The hamster was calling Tae-Sung for help. An emergency hidden quest then appears which Tae-Sung needs to rescue the Great Spirit. To complete the quest, he must defeat the mutated tiger and rescue the hamster. The reward is still unknown and will be discovered right after completing the quest. Tae-Sung found out that the talking hamster was the Great Spirit rather than the tiger. The mutant tiger is a level 25 mutated by unknown energy. This tiger bit the cave where the hamster was locked up. Tae-Sung was hesitant since his level was too low to fight against the tiger. He didn't know what to do until he saw a small log below him. He then picks it up and activates his desperate defense to decrease the tiger's defense and magic power. He also activates his weakening curse to gradually decrease the tiger's health and mana. He charged at the tiger without any fear, and the tiger still carried the cage using its mouth. The hamster's strength was draining and he was already trembling. Tae-Sung then attacked the tiger using the log he found, and the tiger unintentionally let go of the cage. Tae-Sung smiled as he recalled what his master said, that he just needed to weaken the opponent no matter how strong the opponent was. The tiger roared out of anger. It tried to attack Tae-Sung using the log, but Tae-Sung managed to dodge it and hit the tiger using the log for the second time. The tiger swung its claw to scratch Tae-Sung, but Tae-Sung avoided it by bending down his body. The hamster witnessed his movement and he was very amazed at him. It cannot be believed that a mere level 1 human has a pro movement in terms of fighting monster. He also clearly saw the fighting on par of Tae-Sung against the level 25 mutant tiger. "Please, defeat it and save me, you human," the hamster screamed, but Tae-Sung was so annoyed hearing the yapping of the hamster since earlier. He cannot say if the hamster is just cheering him or distracting his fight. He then focused on himself once again, and he could see that the tiger was still resisting even after being struck dozens of times. Even with debuffs applied, he cannot deny the fact that the level gap still can't be ignored. His mana and HP are starting to dwindle, and his weapon has reached its limit. If he doesn't finish it with the next strike, he knows he will be in danger. He then activates his smash skill that could strongly strike the enemy. At this point, the aura of the mutated tiger suddenly changes. Tae-Sung felt a little bit anxious. The tiger suddenly disappeared from his sight since it jumped at a fast speed while roaring so loudly. It was heading to Tae-Sung to prepare its claw to strike an attack. But still, Tae-Sung dodged it and smashed the tiger, combined with his smashing skill causing his log to be broken. This time, his attack made the tiger weak. The tiger fell to the ground and roared in pain, then died. By just killing the tiger, Tae-Sung leveled up from level 1 to level 15 in an instant, to reach level 15 in one go, being ready to fight to death. He uttered. He was staring at the tiger's corpse while proudly saying that he defeated those who could not be defeated. He also stated that this is what a debuff master should be. "Hey, human, stop dawdling and get me out of here quickly," the hamster angrily screamed. Tae-Sung immediately freed the hamster, and the hamster felt relieved knowing that he come back from the brink of death. He gave thanks to Tae-Sung for helping him, and for Tae-Sung, this hamster's manner of speaking is quite refined. "I really want to repay this kindness, but do you ever feel lonely going on adventures alone?" the hamster asked. He offered to accompany Tae-Sung, but Tae-Sung seemed not interested at all and confidently said that he didn't mind the loneliness of being alone. But then, the hamster suddenly hugged his leg and begged him to take him since he was currently powerless due to amnesia. Tae-Sung was annoyed to see the clinginess of the hamster, and he honestly told the hamster that he didn't have a hobby or raise pets. The system popped up to notify him that he completed his quest of rescuing the Great Spirit, and the reward was a contract with the Great Forest Spirit. Tae-Sung was not happy with the reward at all, but then he recalls that the hamster is the so-called Great Spirit, and even though it's just a hamster, he heard that a Great Spirit's rank is similar to that of a Spirit King. Even if there's no immediate use now, if it regains its strength, he knows that the hamster would definitely help him to ascend. The hamster continuously cried in fear, thinking that Tae-Sung really didn't want to bring him. But his mood instantly changed when Tae-Sung declared to accept this cute little hamster and make a contract. Tae-Sung immediately started the process, and a golden light emerged. The hamster felt a strange comfortable feeling during the process, and the contract with the Great Forest Spirit successfully completed in just a minute. Tae-Sung checked the hamster's information and found out that this Great Forest Spirit was originally called Prometheus Cactus Hydra Leviathan Blessed Zacharias Anabolic Gallardo. It's a level 15, the same as Tae-Sung since he's now the hamster's contractor. Its race is a divine beast, a trickster class, with the title Forest Tyrant, Guardian of the Forest, Forest Demon, Forest Troublemaker, and Forest Renegade. Unfortunately, the hamster doesn't possess skills yet. Tae-Sung concludes that the hamster would get stronger too, since it was said that they shared levels as contract partners. "Alright, now that we've made the contract, let's formally introduce ourselves," the hamster stated. He told his name to Tae-Sung, but Tae-Sung stopped it since he knows it and it's also too long to recite just for a name. The system then told him to give a new name to his contracted Great Forest Spirit. "From now on, your name is Hamji," Tae-Sung said with an ironic smile on his face. Hamji was sweating as he didn't like the name at all. He was crossing his arms and he was still annoyed at Tae-Sung for giving him a name that didn't suit him. He was standing on the shoulder of Tae-Sung while Tae-Sung was walking. Tae-Sung apologizes to him since he was aware that Hamji didn't like the name. He begged Hamji to stop throwing tantrums. "How could you name this body like that?" Hamji asked. But then, Tae-Sung told him that Hamji is a cute name that suits his cuteness. Still, for Hamji, naming him a Great Spirit as Hamji is so ridiculous. Tae-Sung then forced him to accept the name since there was no option to change it either. He then changes the topic by asking Hamji was he was locked up in a cage when he is a great spirit. Hamji answered that he didn't know. According to him, when he came to his senses, he found himself trapped in a cage, and he couldn't recall any of his past memories. The only thing he remembered was his name and that he was a great spirit of a certain forest. Tae-Sung then said that it was indeed a frustrating situation. Hamji suddenly pinched his cheek and said that he must help him find his memories too. Tae-Sung told him not to rush things since he believed that getting stronger was their priority for now. He was standing at the mountain and staring at the village below. He went down to the village, specifically at the Mercenary Guild, and Jericho, the Mercenary Guild window employee. Also an NPC greeted him and asked him what he needed. Tae-Sung then told him that he wanted to obtain a mercenary license. He knew that he needed to have a license if he wanted to grow again. According to Jericho, Tae-Sung needed to pass a little qualification test in order to obtain a license. No matter how immortal you claim to be, don't you think it's necessary to verify if you have at least some abilities? He added. He instructed Tae-Sung to first capture mutant rabbits that frequently appear in the vacant territories. Tae-Sung handed the tiger's claw and asked if this would be enough as a verification of his strength. The claw of the mutant tiger is known for its strength and durability, and it is used as material for lower-grade weapons. Tae-Sung explained to Jericho that he caught a mutant tiger while he was on the way to this village. He also proudly said that this tiger's claw is more reliable than catching some rabbits. Jericho was checking the claw and he agreed with what Tae-Sung just said. It's just that he could not believe Tae-Sung captured a mutant by himself. Tae-Sung didn't know what to answer as he couldn't tell if Jericho was impressed or doubting. In the end, Jericho declared that Tae-Sung's verification seemed sufficient, so he decided to issue the license to him. He instructed Tae-Sung to follow him, while Tae-Sung on the other hand was thinking that he was just wondering if the tiger's claw would really work as his verification. But now, he was lucky since Jericho believed in him. Jericho then handed him his Mercenary Guild license outside the building. Tae-Sung gave thanks to him and Jericho suddenly told him to listen to his story if he had some time. Tae-Sung asked what story it is all about, and as per Jericho, abnormal amounts of mutants have been gathering lately. And just recently, a nearby ranch was attacked by mutants and the people in the village are now trembling in fear. Tae-Sung asked if the frequency of monster appearances in the village increased. Jericho said yes and added that the mutant tiger Tae-Sung caught was originally a monster that couldn't be seen in Beerman territories until recently. But lately, not only mutant tigers but also vicious monsters like mutant wolves and mutant buffalo that threaten the Beerman territories. For Tae-Sung, it's really indeed strange to have a level 20 here in this low-level area, so he believes that something must be wrong after all. So, the thing is, I hope you can help, Jericho said, and the system window appeared to show the quest information. The title of the quest is Guardian of the Beerman Territory, and it is just a normal quest. Tae-Sung must do his best to help the Beerman Territory until the situation is resolved. Once completed, a completion reward of 100 golds will be given. Tae-Sung then honestly told Jericho that his level was too low to help. Jericho felt embarrassed, but he also honestly informed Tae-Sung that only he was the one who had caught a mutant tiger alone in this village, even just recently after the nearby ranch was attacked by mutants. Additionally, their territory is on the edge of the border, so there is no magic communication circle and would take at least a week to get help from outside. Because of what he said, Tae-Sung could say that this village is really in a bad situation. Normally, he wouldn't accept such an unreasonable quest. For him, this quest smells like a disaster. He scratched his head and said that he understood what Jericho was trying to say. Jericho is waiting for his decision, and luckily for him, Tae-Sung decided to help. At the same time, a little further from the Beerman territory, Schreier Castle, people were being attacked and begging for someone to help them. Blood was scattered in the castle. They were attacked by someone, not a human, but used a weapon. A man begged for mercy and raised his head, but he was killed mercilessly with the axe while saying that he already said not to raise their head. He also proclaimed that humans are indeed a stupid race. The attacker turned out to be a monster and he was chuckling and claiming that he, a superior human, would now become their king. This monster is topless. He was wearing a red cape and a sharp crown. Going back to Tae-Sung, he left the Mercenary Guild and went to a store to buy something. When he comes out, Hamji is eating a mana stone given by him. Hamji acknowledged the new posture of Tae-Sung since Tae-Sung is now wearing a different cloth. Master, earlier, you looked completely like a beggar, but now you seem like a decent beggar, he said. But Tae-Sung doesn't understand what decent beggar means. Hamji hopped on his shoulder while Tae-Sung told him that he couldn't keep wearing torn training clothes forever. Tae-Sung's appearance now is much more cleaner. He also had a weapon in his hand. He lifts up his weapon thinking that it should be enough for him to fight mutants. He cannot wait to try it. Alright, now that shopping is done, let's go eat. Hamji said. This freeloader. I just bought you a mana stone earlier. Did you already eat it all? Tae-Sung asked with annoyance. While walking, they both argued because of food. Hamji said that the meal given by his master was such a low-quality meal that didn't even register on his radar. He also teases Tae-Sung that he's a high-class beggar. Tae-Sung then reminded him that the mana stone he just ate is too expensive. So Bod argued too much not until 3 men approached them and asked if he was the adventurer who caught the mutant tiger. Nice to meet you. My name is Jang Manbok, the one who will accompany you on this quest. The guy in the middle said while extending his hand. He also introduced his 2 companions in the name Thompson and Rousey. Tae-Sung then concludes that the 3 mercenaries were the ones that Jericho was talking about. He shook hands with Manbok and introduced himself by the name Siegfried. Manbok addressed him as captain and told him that they were counting on him. Tae-Sung was shocked when Manbok called him captain. Manbok then said that the strongest person should be the captain, and he admitted that they were just beginners who couldn't even catch a mutant tiger on their own. Tae-Sung feels awkward as he never expected someone to admit something like that so openly. So, the team has been formed, but what do we do from now on? Thompson asked, and as per Tae-Sung, since Jericho's request was for them to guard the village together with the Beerman regular army, they should start by visiting the Bucardi ranch as he heard that the situation in this area is very serious. Meanwhile, in Bucardi ranch in Beerman territory, monsters were attacking the armies. Manbok was attacked by a wolf but he blocked it with his shield. He then called Thompson and Thompson then assisted him by stabbing the wolf and killing it without any hesitation. After killing it, Manbok feels relieved and admits that this quest is very tough. Unfortunately, Thompson saw monsters coming their way. Manbok looked at it to check, then he saw a level 25 mutated bison. Unfortunately, they weren't able to run since the bison instantly bumped them, causing them to fly away. The other people ran away while Tae-Sung stood still while swinging his weapon. He heard the armies and his companions ordering him to run away, but he didn't listen at all but instead grips his weapon and activates his slash skill. He then charged at the mutated bison the same as the bison to him. He jumped and attacked the bison's head, causing it to fall on the ground and instantly died. After killing it, Tae-Sung leveled up from level 15 to level 20. At the same time, he was pressured because of so many eyes watching him, which only made him unable to use debuff skills. This time, he realizes that hunting alone is much more better than with some companions around. His companions went back to him and asked if he was fine. Tae-Sung answered yes and asked about the others' situation. He also saw that his companions had been hit by the bison earlier. Manbok then said that he was fine since he's a tank, but Thompson was badly injured. Thompson was swallowing a potion and his companions informed Tae-Sung that there was no threat to Thompson's life, but he would be incapacitated for a while. By the way, it's impressive to catch a mutated bison alone. It wasn't a false rumor that you soloed a mutated tiger. Do you have any plans of becoming a pro gamer? Manbok asked. Tae-Sung laughed awkwardly and proclaimed that he only just got lucky with that last hit to kill the mutated bison. The monster in the Schreier castle is the king of all the monsters. He ordered his minions to go back to him and all the monsters stopped attacking the humans and immediately retreated together. Since all the mutated beasts were retreating, Tae-Sung was expecting that the quest had been completed. He then told his companions that it was so strange to see those mutants retreating together as if they all agreed to run away in the same direction, as if they were ordered to retreat by someone. At this moment, he received a general quest investigating. He must investigate the reason why the mutated creatures caused the monster wave. The completion reward would be 200 golds once completed. Tae-Sung sees this quest as a follow-up quest to the territory defense quest, so he concludes it is not just about simple eradication. He walked away while commanding his companions to return first to the main tent while he found out where the mutated beasts were heading and would come back right after. Manbok asks him if he'll be alright by himself, and he confidently answers yes and tells his companions that he's the only one in good condition, so it's better for him to be alone than gamble his companions' lives. Hamji also told them not to worry since he was with his master Tae-Sung. Manbok was speechless seeing Tae-Sung's pet's confidence, while Rousey was blushing seeing the cuteness of Hamji. Tae-Sung then left, and after a few minutes of following the mutated beast's direction, he confirmed that the beasts were all heading in the same direction. However, if he recalls correctly, he concludes that this direction is headed toward the Schreier territory. He then deduces that the mutated beasts might have changed their target to the other territory. His thinking was cut off when he heard Hamji calling him to come over. Hamji was hanging on a tree, so Tae-Sung thought that Hamji was just playing around. He was standing on a cliff and it turned out that Hamji wanted him to check the castle below. Upon seeing it, Tae-Sung instantly knew that it was the Schreier castle. The castle looks quite barren, like a ruin. The door suddenly opened, and seeing the creatures coming out made Tae-Sung shocked. It was because the monsters were gathered outside together with their boss. As per the system, this monster is called Garugo, a legendary golden goblin, said to appear once every 100 years. Its grade is boss and its class is a goblin lord. It has both light and fire attributes, and its special ability is mind control but can only be used on monsters. Tae-Sung was dumbfounded as he now finally discovered that the reason why mutants went wild was because of this golden goblin lord. Now that we know the cause, what are we going to do? Hamji asked, and Tae-Sung then answered that they should return to the barracks for now since there was nothing he could do alone in the current situation. Just what he said. He went back to the Beerman Territory barracks and went directly to Blick, the commander-in-chief of the Beerman Territory army. Tae-Sung introduced himself and said that he was looking forward to working with Blick. As per Blick, he has heard about Tae-Sung's accomplishments. In addition, Jericho strongly recommended Tae-Sung to him. As much as I'd like to have a chat with you, it's not possible at the moment since the situation is urgent. Let's get straight to the point. He added, they have a map on the table, and Blick recalls the report of Tae-Sung that he saw that the Schreier castle has fallen to goblins. So he concludes that Tae-Sung is saying that the cause of the mutant crisis is also because of goblins. To be precise, it is because of the goblin lord as per Tae-Sung. He was sure that the Goblin Lord used his mind control ability to manipulate the mutants and seize control of the Schreier territory. And now, the Goblin Lord is aiming for the Beerman territory. Commander, if what he's saying is true, our Beerman territory is essentially finished. One army said. He was afraid of the fact that the Goblin Lord was a monster that they could not handle. Tae-Sung then suggested that they must evacuate the Beerman territory's residents and the Lord right away. I know it's a bit sudden to bring this up, but considering that the neighboring Schreier territory was attacked, why were we unaware of it until now? Manbok said while raising his hand. Blick then replied that they didn't have much interaction with Schreier to begin with. In addition, the communication network in a small territory like Beerman isn't properly established. Tae-Sung also added that they didn't even have the luxury of conducting investigations as they were too busy trying to fend off the mutant attacks. He also believes that the Goblin Lord has targeted that vulnerability, and that the Goblin Lord and the mutants isolated Beerman to create this situation. Our proud Beerman, boasting a 300-year history, is crumbling just because of goblins. How do we report this to the Lord? Blick said with anger and punched the table. It's not like there is absolutely no way. Tae-Sung said, and Blick then commanded him to say what method he was thinking to save the Beerman territory. While I can't be 100% certain, if only we have time, it could be worth trying. Tae-Sung replied, and Blick asked him what time he was asking for. Tae-Sung then said that he needed time for him to grow stronger. His plan is simple. He just wants the special forces to operate with agile individuals, cut the mutants through guerrilla warfare to disperse them as much as possible, then lure the dispersed mutants toward his location. Then he would take care of the rest himself. After he reaches level 30, he's willing to join the armies and face the goblins with them. Growth, indeed, those who descended from another world like you can grow quickly thanks to the rune of transcendence. Blick said, however, knowing that the Goblin Lord is level 50, he still doubts that Tae-Sung can really fight the Goblin Lord even though there's still a 20 level difference. Tae-Sung agreed that there's really a disadvantage. However, just like how he caught a level 20 mutant tiger at level 1, he doesn't see it as entirely impossible for him to face the Goblin Lord. And even if he fails, ultimately it buys time for reinforcement to arrive. After explaining, Blick was silent. One of his men asked about his decision and luckily, Blick decided to trust Tae-Sung instead. After the discussion, Tae-Sung opened his newest general quest, which is to defeat Goblin Lord Garugo. Completion reward is still unknown and there is no given caution. Excuse me, Master, I have a question, Hamji said, and Tae-Sung replied, I'm sorry but I don't have money to buy food. Hamji was annoyed at him since he wasn't talking about food. He also feels like Tae-Sung called him a parasite and Tae-Sung then told him that he really is a parasite. Tae-Sung then allows him to ask questions. When you were talking with that bald guy earlier, you seemed to be hiding something. Why didn't you mention it? Hamji asked, and Tae-Sung was shocked and wondered how Hamji knew it. And Hamji then proudly answered that he developed a certain level of perception for reaching the Great Spirit. He then told Tae-Sung not to underestimate him and Tae-Sung just informed him that he would also acquire new skills upon reaching level 30. He checked his locked skills while saying that these skills will be a big help when facing Garugo, but he cannot guarantee a 100% win either. Hamji then asked him if he had a specific reason for hiding these skills, and he answered that he's just not ready to reveal these skills yet, knowing that it'll cause an uproar once the regular users see these cheat-like skills. If that happens, he concludes that rumors would surely spread quickly, especially since he has human companions with him. Because of his explanation, Hamji stated that humans live such tiring lives, but for Tae-Sung, it's better to live life than to simply live and get blindsided. While he was standing outside the tent, Manbok asked him if he was done talking with the commander. Tae-Sung then answered yes and questioned what he should do since their plan felt like focusing on him. Manbok then told him not to worry since they were already thankful that they were included in his plan. Manbok stretched his arms and informed Tae-Sung that they were planning to get some rest since they had been playing for 14 hours. He asked Tae-Sung if he didn't have any plans to log out of the game, and Tae-Sung then also decided to take a bit of rest since the operation would start in 2 hours. The two then slowly vanished while waving goodbye to Tae-Sung and Hamji. Hamji was sad knowing that Tae-Sung was going back to the other world to rest. Tae-Sung then handed him a mana stone to have a snack and informed him that he would be back after 2 hours of resting. Hamji then caught the mana stone and was very happy seeing the generosity of his master. He suddenly flinched as he remembered that Tae-Sung said earlier he didn't have money to buy food. Tae-Sung then said that he was just lying, and to avoid an argument with Hamji, he immediately exited the game. He then removed his VR equipment and got up from his capsule. He feels that his muscles are stiff, but he knows that it is because he played for so many hours. He was about to get some food to eat, but he suddenly lay down on his bed as he decided to just sleep for 2 hours instead of eating since there was no more time. He was staring at the ceiling and realized that so much had happened to him. His guild collapsed, and he became a fugitive. Then he met his master, obtained the hidden job of Debuff Master, and now fighting to acquire a territory. He, who only played the game for revenge and money, is now purely enjoying the game. He smiled and questioned himself if he was not mature enough yet. He wanted to play again soon and wanted to become stronger and enjoy the game freely. He was thinking so much about the game without knowing that there were people outside his apartment. He gets up as he decides to go back into the game to level up a bit before the operation starts since he cannot stand it any longer. He stood and was about to check his monitor and the ventilation, but he heard someone calling his name, asking if he was inside. He opened the door a bit to check who were his visitors since he didn't expect someone to come. "Are you Mr. Han Tae-Sung? We are here to install the capsule," the guy stated. Tae-Sung was staring at the box beside the guys outside. He was confused since he didn't order one. The delivery guy then said that they were in the right address and the customer's name was also Han Tae-Sung. But then, Tae-Sung still insisted that he wasn't the one who ordered the capsule. The delivery guy handed a piece of paper to Tae-Sung while saying that they were not sure about the details, but for them, it seems like the capsule was really ordered for Tae-Sung. Tae-Sung opened the letter and the message on the paper was a congratulatory message including his class code. He then recalls that he had heard back then that hidden classes come with tremendous benefits, and he concludes that the free capsule is given by the Beehive, the game developer. Tae-Sung then widely opened the door of his apartment and asked the delivery men what drinks they wanted. He also invited them to come inside his little home. At the same time, there was a guy hiding, checking if Tae-Sung would accept the capsule. He was talking with the Hive chairman over the phone and he reported that they have arrived at Han Tae-Sung's house and have started the installation of the capsule. The chairman addressed him as director and he gave thanks to him. "But Mr. Han Tae-Sung has no relation to the chairman, so why are you giving him the capsule as a gift?" the director asked, and the chairman then replied, "It is because we share the same hidden class, let's call it camaraderie." He remembers seeing it in an ad before. It was for the Hyper VR Capsule Ogre, which was modeled by Ki Hyung-seok, the guild master of Genesis, for the ultimate gameplay. The Hyper VR Capsule Ogre, which regular players can never afford no matter how hard they work, is now installed in the house of Tae-Sung. He was so happy and excited after the installation. He was checking it and he could not believe that he was given this kind of capsule for free. He also concludes that this might be the treatment of hidden classes. He then used it and logged into the game while saying, "This is not the time for this. I can sleep when I'm dead. Let's try it out quickly." When he logged into the game using the Ogre capsule, he felt a different feeling, a different level from the old capsule he had. Plus, it's cushioning that wraps around his body and the comfort of the VR that makes his head clearer even while playing. It also feels much more real now than before. While entering the game, he smelled hot wind and burning. He slowly opened his eyes and he found himself in front of their territory burning into ashes. The armies were attacked by the mutants. They were screaming for help while Tae-Sung was clueless about what was happening. He stood still and suddenly heard the voice of Hamji screaming in fear, calling for help. Hamji was crying in fear while running away from a mutant beast. He feels a little bit weak, causing him not to run any further. Because of it, he questioned if this is where his life ends as the Great Spirit. The beast was about to swallow him alive, but lucky for him, Tae-Sung jumped toward the beast and smashed its head. Hamji was nervous and he uttered, "Master." Tae-Sung killed the beast without any hesitation and asked Hamji if he was hurt anywhere. Hamji suddenly hugged his face while still crying. "Damn it, Master, why did you just get here? I thought I was going to die," Hamji said. Tae-Sung grabbed him, asked him to calm down, and commanded him to explain what was happening to their territory. According to Hamji, as soon as Tae-Sung and the others went back to their original world, the monsters were as if they had been waiting for them to leave. The goblins brought the mutants and attacked their territory. The surprise attack completely caught the territory off guard. Tae-Sung was so mad upon knowing it. He grits his teeth of anger after finding out that the goblins and the mutants were just waiting for them to log out into the game. He then asked Hamji if he was the only adventurer right now, and Hamji then said yes, which is why their territory turned into such a mess. "Well, that's a relief at least. I don't have to worry about keeping up appearances anymore," Tae-Sung said, but Hamji was clueless about what he meant to say. Tae-Sung then informed Hamji that he had a mission for him. Hamji felt nervous as he had a bad feeling about this mission from Tae-Sung despite that he didn't know what it was yet. While they were discussing, a goblin was licking his weapon. The mutants and the other goblins were gathered in one place. They were aiming at the two women, a little girl, and 3 soldiers in front of them. The kid was crying in fear, and seeing the situation made the army worried. He thought that they already evacuated everyone. He knows that it's going to be difficult to evacuate the residents now since there are a lot of mutants roaming in their territory. He felt annoyed for failing to save their people. A goblin charged at him and was about to kill him. Luckily, Tae-Sung attacked the goblin's face. The army was confused since he didn't see anyone nearby. The weapon bounced back to Tae-Sung, and Tae-Sung then activated his smash skill and charged to another goblin. He then smashed its head, causing it to vomit blood and fell on the ground. The army stares at Tae-Sung and is surprised to see Tae-Sung come back on time. Tae-Sung then informed him that he had heard everything about the situation. He volunteered to handle things in this territory, and he wanted the armies to quickly take the people to evacuate. But then, the army was hesitant to just leave Tae-Sung, a mercenary in this situation, so they also wanted to fight with Tae-Sung too. To his surprise, Tae-Sung said that he appreciated the offer, however, he prefers to be alone. Tae-Sung then activates his desperate defense and weakening curse while staring at the enemies. Upon seeing his unbelievable skills, the army understood what he wanted. He then throws a bottle of potions to Tae-Sung while saying that it might help him. Tae-Sung smiled and caught it and said that this thing would be enough for him to fight. "I'm ashamed to be just a bystander, but I'll entrust this place to you," one of the ladies said before leaving. Tae-Sung put the potions in his inventory. Honestly, he feels awkward, but he believes that it is okay to show his true ability to an NPC. He was suddenly startled the moment he saw a wolf charged at him. He immediately blocks his weapon so the wolf ends up biting it. He looked to the other side and also saw a goblin heading in his direction. He immediately smashed the wolf and avoided the goblin's attack. He smiled as he guessed that the weakening curse is really painful for these monsters since they were such in a hurry wanting to kill him. He teases the goblin that his whole posture is messed up, and the goblin roars while swinging his weapon trying to hit Tae-Sung. "If it hurts that much, you should have run away when I set up the trap," Tae-Sung added while blocking the goblin's weapon. He then jumped to charge at the goblin and pushed its head to the ground. "I would have still killed you before you even could," he uttered while strongly smashing the goblin on the ground. His eyes flamed as he felt intense with the fight. His aura is more powerful now, and he believes it is because of his expensive newest capsule. Because of this capsule, he can see the enemy's movements even more clearly now. Even before that, his movements had improved, and he knows it was because of his master's training. But now, he feels like he can dodge any attack. He could say that it's not for nothing that rich people have good skills, and he was aware that rich people are keeping this kind of good stuff to themselves. Fortunately, he managed to attack numerous monsters at the same time. He even dealt a triple powerful strike. He leveled up twice and reached level 22. But then, it only gave him disappointment since he already killed many monsters, but he only leveled up twice. It's definitely harder for him to level up since level 20, but he knows he doesn't have time to think about it, so he forgets it for now and focuses on the battle. He was standing and suddenly heard Hamji behind him, screaming in fear. Hamji was chased by lots of monsters and he asked Tae-Sung if these monsters were enough for him. Whatever, so what if it's hard to level up? I'll just kill a ton of stuff and that's it, Tae-Sung uttered. He then flipped and attacked the wave of monsters at a time. At the point of view of the Goblin Lord, he witnessed how his minions were defeated by Tae-Sung and he could say that Tae-Sung was having fun fighting. He saw everything because of Gwen's insight he has. He knew that Tae-Sung was a dangerous human. He stomped into the territory Lord of Beerman while proclaiming that Tae-Sung would become a real threat if he grew any stronger than this. He was sitting on a throne and in front of his is Blick. Blick was shaking in pain and he concluded that the person that the goblin was referring to was Tae-Sung. Because of his conclusion, he decided to buy some time to let Tae-Sung grow. Where are you going? I am your opponent, you cowardly beast. I will defeat you here and take back my lord, he said the moment he saw the Goblin Lord planning on leaving. Coward? A man who can't even protect his master properly calls me a coward. Oh yeah? Well, why don't you try taking him yourself? I don't know how long you or your lord will be able to last. The Goblin Lord replied and grabbed the Territory Lord while pointing his axe to the old man's neck. The Territory Lord was trembling in fear knowing that the Goblin Lord could really kill him without showing any mercy. At this moment, Blick knew that the Territory Lord won't last long, so he was hoping that Tae-Sung would grow stronger as soon as possible. Tae-Sung was doing his best despite facing lots of enemies. 30 minutes ago, Hamji refused to accept the mission given by Tae-Sung. He was nervous upon hearing that the mission he should do was to lure monsters. I'm a great spirit, not a bait. And what if I get caught while luring them in? He asked angrily. Tae-Sung then explains to him that there is no other way. Would you rather your master be a third-rate loser adventurer who just runs away? And if we run away, won't everyone here die? He stated. But still, Hamji is begging him not to drag him on his fight. Tae-Sung clenched his fist and extended it while proclaiming that he was not fighting alone, and that they both were fighting together. He smiled and said, please, great spirit Hamji. Hamji sighed and bumped his fist to Tae-Sung's first. Okay, but prepare a lot of nuts for me later, Q, he said. And Tae-Sung said of course. And back to the present, Hamji was grumpy. He was standing at the head of Tae-Sung while saying that he was sick of being chased, and that he would never fall for his master's gaslighting again. Yes, I know you've been through a lot, Hamji, but you know I'm short on time, Tae-Sung replied. He was sorry but he didn't have any choice either since only the two of them and he was confident that Hamji could surely complete the mission. He then asked Hamji to calm down since both of them were now together again. Luckily, he finished all the monsters in a short span of time. He opened one potion and asked Hamji if he found the Goblin Lord. As per Hamji, he couldn't see the Goblin Lord in person, but he figured out a place that seemed promising. He was running through the forest, with mutants and goblins in hot pursuit. While he was running, he saw the Beerman castle, and he could feel a terribly evil aura emanating from the castle. He couldn't see inside the castle, but he was sure that the evil aura belonged to the Goblin Lord. Tae-Sung then concludes that the Goblin King must have taken over the castle. Normally, when a castle is attacked, the Lord or other high-ranking officials would have evacuated long ago. But now, he senses a creepy feeling. It was also strange for him that he didn't see the Lord's commander-in-chief, General Blick. He then started walking saying that he needed to hurry up to the castle. Hamji asked if he was really going to the castle and he answered yes. However, he wants Hamji to just stay in this area since all the monsters in this area are now dead, so he knows Hamji would be safe here. He promised that he'll be back soon and Hamji then answered yes. But then, he noticed that the monster behind him was moving. He becomes scared and screams in fear. He then chased his master Tae-Sung knowing that he'd be safer when he was beside Tae-Sung. After a few minutes, Tae-Sung arrived at the Beerman castle. He was standing outside and he could definitely feel some bad aura emanating from inside the castle. He was thinking that it might be dangerous to just go in, so he was hesitant. He turned around as he heard someone from behind. It was his pet Hamji. Hamji was tired and Tae-Sung asked why he kept on following. Hamji then said that he wanted them both to be together instead. I told you not to come because it's dangerous, Tae-Sung said, and Hamji honestly answered that he was scared but he changed it, saying that he was worried about Tae-Sung going to such a dangerous place alone. I'm so grateful that it brings tears to my eyes, Tae-Sung replied, knowing that Hamji was just only scared to be alone. Hamji climbed on his shoulder and asked him if he already had a plan. No matter how strong you are, Master, the opponent is the Goblin Lord. We need to be prepared for when the attacks fail, he added. But for Tae-Sung, he doesn't have much time to think of a plan. He positioned himself with his skills being activated and then ran to the castle's entrance while stating that it might be the right answer to just push through and move forward. He then destroyed the door together with Hamji. Hamji was screaming and he complained that Tae-Sung is so crazy for going inside without a plan. Tae-Sung then ordered him to be quiet. He then smiled the moment he saw Blick leaning in the pillar. "It's so like you to make a noisy entrance," Blick uttered with a smile on his face despite that he was wounded. Tae-Sung then ran to Blick and he was worried upon seeing the cut arm of Blick. He also asked Blick why he was still here in the castle instead of evacuating. "I may be weak, but I am still a knight. And as a knight, it is my duty to protect my lord," Blick replied. Tae-Sung grits his teeth out of annoyance since he's expecting Blick to be tough, but turned out that even the lord wasn't safe. "So, it's you, the human who wiped out my army," the goblin lord said, which startled Tae-Sung. The goblin lord walked toward him, carrying his weapon in the cut arm of Blick. "You certainly seem stronger than any of the humans I've faced so far. I think I understand why that human brat was waiting for you," he added. But Tae-Sung was clueless about what he was talking about. The goblin lord accused him of playing coy with him. He stated that Tae-Sung sacrificed those Beerman people to buy time to grow stronger in preparation for facing him, and in the end, those armies died stupidly waiting for Tae-Sung to come. Tae-Sung was furious because of what the goblin lord said. Blick then told him not to listen to the goblin lord and focus on the thing that they needed to finish. "Sir Blick, is the person lying down behind the goblin over there the lord?" Tae-Sung asked while staring at the Beerman lord who seemed to be lifeless. Tae-Sung told Blick to wait for a moment and Blick then begged him not to fall to the goblin lord's provocation. He walked toward the goblin while putting back his weapon on his waist. The goblin lord then concludes that Tae-Sung is putting his weapon away to surrender. "Are you out of your mind with guilt? That's why you inferior humans get devoured," the goblin lord stated and swung its weapon. It turned out that Tae-Sung activated the speed regulation skill earlier after fighting lots of monsters. He activated it in front of the goblin lord to reduce the goblin lord's movement speed, attack speed, and casting speed. When the goblin charged at him, he bent down to avoid it. The goblin lord claims that he lost sight of Tae-Sung's movement. He wondered if it was just a coincidence or a trick. "Hey, don't touch his arm with your dirty hands," Tae-Sung said. The goblin lord was still carrying the arm of Blick. He grits his teeth out of anger against Tae-Sung. He then told Tae-Sung not to give him any orders since he was the king here. He charged at Tae-Sung once again and Tae-Sung this time was standing while carrying the body of the Beerman lord. He swung his leg and kicked the goblin lord. The goblin lord flew away and kneeled on the ground. This time, he was sure that it wasn't a coincidence as it was definitely Tae-Sung's doing. He thought that Tae-Sung had gotten faster, but he instantly realized that it was his body that had gotten slower. The skill of Tae-Sung surrounds his body and he feels a filthy feeling as if it's trying to control his body from all directions. He angrily asked Tae-Sung what he had done and Tae-Sung answered, "Speed regulation seems pretty good, doesn't it?" Blick was speechless since he was surprised as he also noticed that Tae-Sung's attack was effective based on the reaction of the goblin lord. Tae-Sung picked up the cut arm of Blick to give it back to Blick. He knows that it cannot be reattached again. He thought that it should be in the enemy's hand. "Thanks to Sir Blick and the others for holding out, I was able to grow stronger. Please leave it to me now," he added. He then called Hamji, ordering him to stop hiding and take Blick and the Beerman lord out of the castle. "I appreciate your help, but please be gentle with the lord," Blick said upon seeing Hamji casually pull the Beerman lord's body without showing any care. Hamji was annoyed at him and told him to stop complaining and just hurry up to leave. Tae-Sung stares outside and finds out that the immediate fire has been put out. He looked back to the goblin lord and proclaimed that the only thing left now to deal with was the demon lord. "Not only did you humiliate me with that strange residual magic, but you even stole my loot. I'll tear you limb from limb, human," the goblin lord said angrily. "Well, I guess I don't have to worry about you anymore. Let's have some real fun," Tae-Sung replied with a smile to tease the goblin lord. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you wish to have another part of this recap, please give us at least 2,000 likes. Please don't forget to comment and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Until next time.